Hey guys, my name is Dida. I'm from London. I'm a strength and conditioning coach. I used to train JJ for his boxing matches, the Joe Weller fight, as well as the Logan Paul fight. Today I'm just going to give you a bit of an inclination of my way of thinking whilst I was training JJ for his respective fights, as well as just in general, really.
So where did you start and how did you get into the position to train JJ?
Okay, so basically I contacted his management, but it was just a general inquiry. It wasn't for JJ. I contacted Liam, who is his manager, and he returned my email saying that JJ was interested in getting in better shape, as well as doing some strength and conditioning for the upcoming Sidemen charity football matches. And I was all on board, went to see him. He was a very gracious host. He showed me around the Sidemen house, and it started from there, really. So the first training session was actually really funny because if you compare JJ now, who's basically a professional athlete, to where he was when he first started with me, it's incredible. You might have heard it through the interview I did with JJ a couple of months back, where he talked about the first training session and where he was really dizzy, and he'd never experienced a training session like it. It was just very high octane.
What was the first type of exercises that you done with JJ when you first started with them?
So people might recognize it because I have it a lot in my plans. So I've only released one plan as a lean guide, but basically it was a superset. So we did a lot of complex exercises that were full body. So like squat to press, kettlebell swings, unilateral hip drives, and he was just never used to that sort of movement. It's very functional, it's very high octane. It's something that athletes do a lot. And it was great that he started in that manner because it's not your usual like bench press, barbell squat. It's something different.
What was the time frame you had between starting to work with JJ and the Joe Weller fight?
So initially, before the Joe Weller fight, we had, I think it was 4 or 5 months. So he'd already built up that base. It's like something in the back of his head, something's coming. It was like fate, as you would say. And then the fight just came around, and he was always training. He was always training 4 or 5 times a week. So it built up progressively, and he just kept on chipping away. And now he's a professional boxer. It's crazy.
So we saw the massive change of JJ's body throughout the year. We all know him as a sort of funny, bouncy character, but what was he actually like to train?
Oh, he was great. Very outgoing, very caring about his team. He wanted everyone to succeed, and I wanted him to succeed more than anyone. So it was reciprocated well. He listened to his coaches, myself, boxing coach Vidal, and Sarah the chef. So yeah, that was another decisive moment, getting a chef. So I was actually cooking his food until then. I was preparing it in Tupperware boxes and giving it to him. But I realized that I had to maximize what I had to do, get him ready in a training perspective. And I want to focus on that. And that's why I contacted the chef, brought her in. And if you ask any athlete or coach, nutrition is very important.
What was the best type of food to fuel JJ in order to work towards his fight?
Very broad question, but just getting the best food, like organic food. Sarah would always get the most organic food, whether that's fruit, veg, protein, carbohydrates, always top standard. And it was cooked through it. She cooked it on the day, on the hour. It was fresh, and yeah, it worked tremendously because I noticed JJ's levels went through the roof. His athleticism went through the roof. As well as other benefits.
Okay, so was there any point during training JJ for Joe Weller that you were nervous you couldn't pull it off? Or?
No, because I set about finding out how I can eradicate those doubts from my mind and everyone else's by calling up my friend Chris and asking him, do you have anybody that can spar JJ? And then he just brought in like, I don't know how many it was, like 4 or 5 people. And it was a test for JJ, but he managed to really do well. He used his cardio, he moved about. Those doubts were eradicated. Then Chris himself went in with JJ, and he couldn't hang about with JJ because JJ was just superior stamina. Boxing was a lot better. So there was another guy that was a bit more skilled, but he did really well. And he told me afterwards, like, it was good to box with him, but you wouldn't want to get into a fight with JJ because it's just a nightmare. Hence his name, Nightmare.
So it's a week before the fight.
Yeah.
What's it looking like in camp?
For me, I was very confident in JJ getting the W, and so was everyone else. And that came from sparring, that came from his physical conditioning. Everything was just fantastic. I think the week before the fight, he knocked out somebody, and that's always a good indication that someone's level is very good. And JJ's level was extremely high, as you saw in the fight. It was total dominance.
So the week leading up to the fight, do you train as hard, or do you take the foot off a little bit to prepare for that fight night?
You take the foot off the gas, but you make sure the conditioning is still progressively the same. So you do stuff in the pool, low impact stuff with the resistance band as well as the dumbbells, just to make sure that his body isn't going to be stressed out when it gets to the stage, but it's highly conditioned. And a week leading up to fight, you're not going to learn anything new. It's just going to be what you've learned through that 4-month time frame, which is what we had.
Okay, so it's the day of Joe Weller fight. What went down throughout the day from start up until the fight?
Bit of nerves. You expect it from the coach's corner as well. Just making sure everyone arrived safely into the stadium, and then it was all eyes on JJ just to make sure he was comfortable, everything was good. He warmed up properly, and he was properly hydrated. So I kept on like giving him like dates, water, and just making sure he was fueled and ready for the fight.
Half an hour before he walks out, how's he?
Pumped. So a lot of music blaring, him hitting the pads, him warmed up for stretches, dynamic stretches, and yeah, it was just getting him amped up for the fight ahead, so that once the bell rings, he was on the money, on the ball against Joe.
JJ won his fight against Joe Weller, but what point through the fight did you realise, yeah, JJ's going to win this?
Sparring. When he was knocking out people, when his level of progression in boxing was getting better and better.
So you knew he was going to win?
Yeah, 100%. Even the guy sparring, they were like, yeah, you're going to steam through him. And yeah, exactly what happened.
So after beating Joe Weller, JJ called out any of the Pauls, and it just happened to be Logan Paul. So what was it like training JJ in preparation for the Logan Paul fight as opposed to preparation for the Joe Weller fight?
So we knew that Logan would be a tougher task, bigger guy, more athletic. So those were the tasks we were facing, but he was starting from scratch in terms of his boxing ability. So we knew we had an advantage as such. But as JJ correctly said, he didn't train nearly as hard for the Joe Weller fight. Tactically, wanted to make him a bit stronger, but we weren't going to shift away from the training methods that led to success for the first fight. So yeah, it was just progressing from that and just making him as athletic as he was for the Weller fight.
So you also mentioned how JJ, you wanted to put more mass on him for the Logan fight, because a bigger fighter and so on. So did his diet change in order to do this?
Yes. So we went through a bulking stage, so his diet meant that he was eating more in order to increase muscle mass. And coupled with that, I just wanted to make sure he was as athletic as he was for the Weller fight at a lower weight leading up to the Logan fight. So those two things, training is important, diet is important for that athletic bulk, and then it was about gaining that weight before a month or two before the fight to ensure that he can cut it off and minimize the fat he's gained, because you're always going to gain fat leading up to bulk. Same methods as my bulking guide, which is coming out soon.
What type of training were you implementing to JJ for the build up to the Logan fight? Was it the same as Weller? Was it more high intensity?
So because of his body type, he's a mesomorph. So think of a sprinter, can bulk up in terms of muscle mass pretty quickly. He's got a good physique. And with that in mind, using such stuff as I've said, slam balls, resistance balls, med balls, and plyometric based training with barbells and dumbbells. It was athletic type training in order to get the best out of him in terms of athleticism and making sure he was the best athlete possible leading up to the fight. So yeah.
Did you learn anything from training JJ for the Joe Weller fight? Did you learn anything and think you could have done something better back then and implement it onto the Logan training?
Good question. Really good question. I don't know how to answer that. So we did a couple of things in order to make the camp better, bringing in better equipment to the gym, making training sessions a bit more effective. As well as that, we did a DNA test and found out what his strengths and weaknesses are. Found out he's a very strong athlete. He had a very good foundation, very good strengths to work on. And in terms of diet, we found out what he's allergic to, what maybe would decrease his performance. And that was very good insight into what we could do better.
Vidal, Deji, yeah. Jeez. Boys.
The Logan Paul fight was completely different because the fighter was from America, which means an American press conference. So what was it like going out there with JJ? What sort of experience was it?
That was fantastic. We were based in Beverly Hills. We train in the day and then socialize in the evening leading up to the press conference. Training was really good.
Okay, so you're in America.
Yeah.
And you haven't got the equipment you were using in the Cyberman house.
Yeah.
What sort of training were you doing?
So luckily we stayed in the Beverly Hills Hotel, which had a gym. That was great. It had all the facilities we had at the house. And it had a grass area where we can do drills, be it for S&C or boxing. And then we also did a day where we went out to Venice Beach and we did various stuff, calisthenics based, pull-ups, dips, etc., as well as running drills, explosive drills, and it was great.
So it's the week of the fight. Again, what's going through the camp? What are you planning? Are you confident, excited, nervous?
Initially, for the last week of camp, we headed to Manchester, obviously, and you could sense that it was a lot bigger. The fight was a lot bigger. It was crazy, but you could see like celebrities staying in the hotel as well, so you knew this fight was another level.
Okay, so the night of the fight, what are the emotions in the camp?
Nervous. You're gonna be very nervous. Do you know that sensation you get when you're nervous about something? You're really cold. Oh, it's so cold that night. It's just crazy. But the focus was just to get JJ out there, warmed up and ready for the fight. So same thing as a Weller fight, just making sure he's warmed up and ready to fight. So he's doing pads as usual, and then he was ready to perform. But yeah, definitely nervous. I think everyone was.
You could tell JJ was so well conditioned. His stamina throughout the fight, he didn't gas out as much as Logan did. Does that all come down to the training you done for JJ?
I think it definitely helps, but he's always had really good stamina. So it's just about increasing that, and nutrition is important. So yeah, I definitely think it helped, and it's something that's always been a highlight of his game. His conditioning has always been great, and perhaps that was something that gave him an edge over Logan in that fight.
The fight ended as a draw. Was that expected?
No, obviously we thought he won. I think he just edged it. But having said that, you could see you could give it a draw as well. It wasn't like this is a disgrace, blah blah blah. If you look back, you could swing both ways. One judge gave it to him, and two others said it was a draw. So I think JJ just edged that one. So I think it was a good fight, and he did really well.
The whole experience of training JJ for those two fights, how was it?
It was great. Great person. Great person to work with. He's relentless with his work ethic, as you guys have seen. And yeah, it was a fantastic experience. Yeah, wishing JJ luck for his fight against Logan in the weekend on Saturday. I expect him to win as well.
So what's next for you?
So actually, Andrew Henderson will be fighting Mike Fox in an MMA event in Newcastle, and yeah, I'm looking forward to training Andrew for that. We've already started camp. He's a well-conditioned athlete, and well-versed in MMA, and I expect him to win in the first round. That's it. Well-conditioned. Yep, first round.
Confident?
Yep, pretty confident. I put money on that.